Hello, I'm Scotty. This is Scotty's Play, going to be on Scotty's Playtime. And on my YouTube channel, of course, because the only way I can get it to Scotty's Playtime is to upload it to YouTube first. And there always has to be drama in my life. Ron calls it the black cloud that hangs above us. We stopped and talked to a friend here in the park, an associate in the park, and he said, if you guys didn't have bad luck, you wouldn't have any luck at all. And yeah, that's our way. So, right now, my eye surgery is off. And I was traumatized yesterday due to it. And I'll explain why. So, this started before Ron went up north. All of a sudden, I couldn't see wearing my glasses. When I would try to drive, I would get nauseous wearing them. Now, my glasses are progressive trifocal lenses, far too big for my face, but I did want big glasses. Just the person who helped me pick them out and set them didn't take into account they were digging into my cheeks. But anyway, so we went to an eye doctor who said this left eye, okay, and you got to remember the camera's a little reversed. This left eye was no longer helping me with vision. The cataract had now become so thick and big, and they couldn't do anything as far as prescribing glasses for it. The other eye they could correct, so my vision was still going to be very bad, and I fought to get them to include a prism, because with my eyes, one eye trying to work so much harder than the other and cross, it was creating fuzzy images made out of caterpillars. So I got them to put in the prism. Anyway, long story short, it was decided I needed to have cataract surgery. Went to the first visit. Went to the second pre-op visit. Now they have my medical records. They tested my eyes. We talked to the doctor. We talked to the coordinator. And all through it, I told them I'm very sensitive about anything close to my eyes. And I will need to be under general anesthesia. I'll need to be out. If I'm awake, I can't help the instinct to get away from what's in my eye, near my eyes. So, oh yeah, sure. They'll medicate you. You won't even be aware of what's going on. All that stuff. Okay, fine. Get there. Now, they were supposed to call me a few days ahead. They didn't. I had been on their website, saw an appointment time for 11:30, went that morning, so I'd been moved to 11. Okay, I'm flexible. And about 9 o'clock in the morning, excuse me, I'm a bit thirsty. I have a big cup of soda here. I drink them in 1 liter cups. I like them cups. They're good. Anyway, so they called us and said, hey, how about you want to come in early? I said, I'll be right there. Take us about 30 minutes to get there, but we'll be there. So we headed out, got to this place. They called me right in. I had to take everything off, out of my pockets and that, leave it with Ron. And we get in there. Oh, they're very efficient, very nice. I'll give them that. These people, these nurses were wonderful. They were all women, too, which now that I think about it, I've never seen a surgical staff of all women, but they worked real well together, and they were emotive. In other words, they had an emotional connection, and they tried hard to establish one with me, which isn't hard. I'm pretty easy in that way, especially in a situation where I'm kind of going to be in a crisis mode. So they got me on the gurney, talked to me, asked questions. They got an IV in my arm. Oh, they love my veins. Oh, that's perfect. Oh, and it didn't really hurt that much. I got to where I didn't like having IVs and blood draws in my hands, because they can be quite painful, you know. And they dilated my eyes. They all loved my eyelashes, told me how great they were and how they looked, and I kept telling them, everyone who would listen, I said, you don't want eyelashes like these. If you wear glasses, every time you blink, you're coating your glasses with whatever. And so you got to wash your glasses. They get a blue film over them. So anyway, we're having a good time, but I'm kind of anxious. And then the anesthesiologist comes in, nice woman, and she said, we got to have a talk. Now, when somebody tells me that in that tone, it gets my attention. She said, let's go over your medications. She said, you take morphine? I said, yes, I take 2 different kinds. She said, can you describe to me your morphines? I said, yep, I take 30 milligrams twice a day, 12 hours, long acting. And so that's 60 milligrams, and I take 15 milligrams instant 4 times a day. I take baclofen 4 times a day at the highest dosage. I take ibuprofen 800s 3 times a day. She said, I don't care about the others. I care about the morphine. She said, did you take them this morning? I said, yes. I said, was I not supposed to? I'm sorry, they didn't tell me. She said, no, in situations like this, it's actually better you take your meds. But she said, we got to be honest with each other here. We got a problem. And I went, oh, you got my attention. She said, yeah, Scotty, I can't sedate you. I went, what? She says, at this facility, I cannot give you enough to sedate you. I can't even make you sleepy. She said, normally we put patients right to the sleepy point where they're not really aware of what's going on around. She said, you're going to be wide awake. You're going to know everything. You're going to see everything. You're going to hear everything. Oh, the other monitor just went into screensaver, and boy, that made a difference. And I probably should have turned on the lights here, but I just wanted to get this video done. So she goes, I said to her, I said, I'm scared. I really am now. I said, you can't sedate me. She said, no. But don't worry. I'll be there. I'll hold your hand. We'll talk you through it. It's just very, very important you don't move. If you move even the slightest, you could be blinded. And I went, now I'm really scared. I said, this is serious shit. I said, I can't have anything near my eyes other than my glasses. And I said, she said, well, you're going to have to work with us. I said, I'm working with you. I'll cooperate. I'll try. But I'm going to be honest. If you get something that close, I can try to will myself to stay still. But you come any closer, and I can't guarantee I'm not going to go flinch. And she said, yeah. She said, we can't do it. She said, that would blind you. She said, the tools they're micro tools, and they're right in your eyeballs. And she said, no, we can't do it. You need general anesthesia. The medicines you take are powerful, and at this facility, I cannot give you enough to sedate you. She said, I need to go talk to the doctor. She came back after a little while. Now all the nurses are around me. They're, oh, you were so brave. You're so great for being honest. And I'm like, why wouldn't I be honest? Why wouldn't I tell the truth? And that's when she came back and she said, a lot of people don't. She said, a lot of people wouldn't have been as honest as you are. I said, I don't want to be blind. And she said, yeah, that's a good thing. She said, no, you really did the right thing. She said, I talked to the doctor and the surgery's off. We can't do it for you. You have to go to this Palmer, I don't have the sheet in front of me, but it's something Palmer in Naples. It's it's a hospital type facility that can put me under. But Naples is an hour and some away. So, and it took 3 visits to set up this surgery. And I have to have it in the morning because I'm diabetic, which means we'd have to leave here. If they give me a 10 o'clock surgery, we'd have to leave here 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's all up in air. So we didn't know anything. So she came back and told me this. She started taking her stuff down. The nurses all came over. They're all cooing over me. And now I'm emotionally charged. I am like almost in tears. I'm like, what? And the head nurse came over with a paper. Here's the thing. It's a University of Miami program. And you call this number and talk to them. And she said, I'll give you my number. She wrote, and she said, that's not the right number. I'll be right back. She comes back. She said, here's the right number and the paper. And you call, you get all the information they need, and you call me. You call me at this number, and I'll make sure they get our doctor's notes. And that kind of clued me in. I was going to have to start all over. But other than that, nothing was said. They cooed me. They pulled the IV. They took everything out, buttoned up my shirt again. I forgot to mention that part. Had to take the 3 buttons, and the nurse was doing it, and I was like trying desperately not to let my other things, my abuse, my memories. I had nothing to calm my memories, nothing in my ears, so I was trying to focus on everybody else but the woman taking my shirt off. So they took my A1C, all that. But now they started getting me ready, and they wanted to make sure I could stand and all that. Then my eye was very dilated. And that's what they kept saying after the anesthesiast canceled it. They kept saying, oh, but his eye is so beautifully dilated, and it's such a wonderful IV. Oh, Scotty, you did the right thing. You really did. You are a brave man. And I'm thinking, I want to go home. I just want to go home. We got home. Ron drove. We got home, and I went here into the office. I was an emotional wreck. I'll admit it. I stayed here all day. I don't think I accomplished a dang thing on the computer. I know I didn't get to any comments. I think I finished a post on the memes and cartoons, and I was a wreck. So this morning we got up, finished the story up, because this is getting long again, finished the story up and we called the surgical center. They're refunding the $880, and we're done with them, other than our records. And we got to start all over again with a place in Naples. We live in North Fort Myers. This was all hard enough. Kind of concerned why life had to make it harder. We told them every step of the way that I would have to be put under, that I couldn't stand anything near my eyes. They had my med list. We gave it to them. Every visit, every nurse, every test, they knew it all. And yet it wasn't until we got there and all set up and ready to go. Okay, we're back again, I hope. Not sure. This thing cuts me off in the middle. I gotta find a way to stop that. I really do, but I don't know how. Yeah, and I haven't had the time or energy to mess with this program. I want to do videos. I'm going to end up doing a lot of videos, at least 1 or 2 a day, and shorter ones. Trust me, you won't have to listen that much. But I've been waiting till I get out into the other room, and I'm going to talk all about that. It's been a disaster after disaster. That's why I say. And now the room, the roof, the ceiling, the $17,000 2 roofs we had put on, because the first one leaked like a sieve and the second one was pretty good, but we just had a series of storms. And in my office I have a whole bunch of ceiling damage. It's leaking. So anyway, to go on with the eye center thing, they gave me this paper. They sent me home. They took me out to Ron. We came home, and we called them this morning. And basically, we start all over again. And I'm very just, I have to have it. As I was starting to say, I did a few things. Ron told me today, he looked over my tabs, he said, you got to clear these. You got 8 open windows with dozens of tabs on each of news stories that I'm going to post. But it's the vision thing and the time thing. I'll be honest, last night, yesterday, of course, emotionally charged day and that, didn't sleep well the night before, and Ron cooking supper, and I went out to him. It was like 5 o'clock. I took my pills and I went to him and I said, I'm sorry, love, I'm going to bed. I'm just too tired. Went to bed and went right out, you know. I take morphines. After 3 o'clock, I might have a drink or 2. And normally, it's not until after I eat. After I eat, I get very sleepy, I go to bed. But sometimes, it just all catches up with me and I go to bed soon. So now, I have to learn to moderate my day. I get up. Ron doesn't like to get up much before 7. I like to stay in bed with Ron. Just take that wherever you want to. So get up at 7, and we have a cups of coffee. I try to get him to go for a walk. If I go for my own walk, well, there goes an hour to hour and a half, and then I come home and I shower. If he goes walking with me, it's still 40 minutes. We do a much shorter route, a lot slower, but don't tell him that. And then after my shower, it's usually 10 or so, and I start right in on the cartoon post and that. By noontime, Sam Cedar's on. I go out, turn on the other TV, do the dishes. By the time the dishes, I get them done because I'm not very fast and I don't move well. But I do that so he can get to work in the other room, the bathroom renovation. He's 70 years old and gets tired like I do. But he stays up late, 9 o'clock at night or so. And then he's up halfway through the night. And So during the day, he takes an hour, 2 hour, sometimes more nap. And that's not ever going to change. So the more I can try to do around the house, the more he can get done. But that means my computer time is very short. Which means, at this point, I got to cut the video off. Hey, I thank everybody for listening. This eye thing has been a real trauma. I'm not happy about starting over. I know it's going to cost more, which I'm not happy about at all. In the meantime, while the month and a half or so, 2 months that they've had the $880, I've paid the interest on that on the credit card. That's not going to be refunded. Being poor is not easy. All right. As always, best wishes for everybody. I'm Scotty. This will be on Scotty's Playtime. And hugs for those who want them. Now there's an off button around here somewhere. Mouse is on the wrong computer. Come back here, mouse. There it is. Bye.